Hi, my name is Jill Sheehan. I am with Empire Chartered Consultants, and today I am here with Jessica Mokhiber, also with Empire Chartered Consultants. Jess started working with me and Andrea and Joe at the association what felt like 20 years ago, but Jess explained it was approximately 12 years ago. So, Jess, you have seen us in the association of environment. You've seen us in the Empire environment. You've heard issues with schools. We've had millions of conversations as an Empire team. Tell me one good change that you have seen in the charter school movement, and then tell me one bad thing that you see in the movement.
Oh,
Let's go good first.
good. Oh, man. So I started at a time where charters were like very much in the news. It was 2014. So there was a lot of like fighting and like advocacy. And we had a governor at the time who was like heavily involved in at least like optics wise being supportive. I'm not going to say his name, everyone knows who it was. And there was a lot of like clamoring, and it was like kind of a like sexy issue at the time. And for better or worse, I come at this from a communication standpoint, and that was like a time where charters were really in the news, and like maybe definitely doesn't speak to like a quality issue. It doesn't speak to like the authorizing like strengths or weaknesses. This is just from like a communications perspective. There was a lot of like attention to the movement, and it was kind of like in the news. Even if you weren't following the issue, you knew there was something going on with charter schools. It's There was like a lot of bipartisanship, and since that time, in the 12 years that I've been working in the communications realm for charter schools, it feels like the attention in the news has completely like petered off. I'm not completely. There are times, and I look at the news stories nationally. So there are some states that have a lot more attention on them than others. But just in New York State, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of advocacy, at least in the news. And that to me is like a huge detriment. It's almost like silence. Like, who is advocating for these schools? We always tried to push the schools to be their own advocates, but at the end of the day, you really need like an organizing principle to get them all together and to get them all on the same page and get there and to like do that advocacy work, because they're in the classrooms day in, day out. There's not a lot of extra time allocated to advocacy.
Right.
So they really needed someone to like guide them in that. And I feel like I started at the time where there were like a lot of rallies, and there were, like I said, bipartisanship around it, and there were big advocacy days, and it felt like even, it felt like lawmakers really wanted to be seen with the students and the teachers on advocacy day. They wanted that attention garnered. I don't see any of that. I don't want to say none, but I know there was a major snowstorm that disrupted Advocacy Day this year. But the attention given in the press has been substantially less, and that's because there aren't, in my opinion, as many people behind the scenes working to garner that press. And so it sort of falls out of people's minds and attentions because it's just not at the forefront. So I understand there's a lot of competing factors for funding and for the support that you need at the legislature. But to me, in the 12 years time that I've been doing this, it feels like a real downturn in terms of advocacy and attention and media coverage. So that is not good. I also feel that the bipartisan nature of it has also diminished. Whereas before, I
Mhm.
feel like both Democrats, maybe from like a social justice perspective, and this is charter schools have always sort of been like a darling of the right. It feels like now it's more so like a hard right in some states, and or like a rightward lurch where like Democrats have been a lot less willing or able to like speak up and speak out on behalf of the schools, even in their own districts. So we always tell schools to make sure that they have like great relationships with their lawmakers and their regents. But from what I've seen, it definitely feels like less bipartisanship. It feels like it's more of a just like a Republican issue, which is I don't think a good way for sustainability. And I also just don't think it's actually like true that I think there's a big like social justice component to charter schools. And I feel like Democrats are like missing the mark a little bit on that.
And they're supported by the teachers union, which is making it even more difficult.
So that's really depressing. If you ask me to look at it from that perspective, it was more of like an exciting news time, an exciting time to like garner really good press. Even if there wasn't like great press, like there was attention on the issue. And so now I feel that it's much less. I remember when we like camped out in the concourse of the Capitol of the state Capitol during the funding fights, like waiting to hear if like we would get like facilities funding, um, waiting to see if like things legislatively would go our way. And it really felt like a different, exciting time. And it really feels like it has stagnated to me. And sorry,
What is the upside to any of this?
that's a tricky one. I feel like there's like this could be a good time for like a reset. I feel like now maybe like they have kind of the issue has sort of fallen to the wayside in the press and maybe in lawmakers' minds a little bit. And so maybe it's time for like a reset, a reintroduction. I don't know if like I haven't given this any thought, so I didn't know any of these questions were coming, but I think it's definitely
Doesn't know what's coming next either.
I think a reflection time period would be good and like a reset, like a rejuvenation. Maybe it's like new people advocating, like drawing more people into the movement and like really impressing upon them the importance of um, choice and education, and that it isn't really just like a one side, like a one political side versus another. I really think there's room for multiple perspectives. I mean, I'm not going to lie, like I'm very left. Like I'm a lefty. Like I'm absolutely not ashamed to say that. Like I canvassed for Bernie back when. I'm I definitely am very like left person and I believe in like the promise of charter schools. I do think that there are very few people that are progressive that would like be able to say that, and that's unfortunate. I'm not a lawmaker, I'm just a person, but with like a very small following of people. So I understand that there are political realities, but I also find it really sad that more people haven't been able to speak out. But because I believe that there has been a stagnation, there might be an opportunity for like growth and reflection and like a renewal. That's up to a lot of other people that to be able to do that. But I think that there are opportunities. I mean, if you were able to have like a really energized movement 12 years ago, there's no reason that it couldn't happen again. I do believe that some of the traditional messengers of that narrative may not be the right ones now. So I think there's like a rethinking that needs to be done of like who is the best messenger for that storyline going forward. I don't know if that's a really optimistic message because
I agree. We need a hard reset. When you think back at all your years, first with the association and then us, is there one memory more than another that stands out to you as absolutely hilarious? That you still think back and crack up? Like, this was our lot. These were our lives at this place.
um, I mean, it's hilarious, but it's also like so cringe. Wasn't there like a period of time where like we didn't even really have like a CEO or like an executive director? It was just like me, you, and Andrea like holding down like an office. Like we
Yeah. That everybody quit. We were sitting in a huge office and we're like, Jess, you don't have to drive in every day. Like, this is
yeah,
ridiculous.
like I just feel like I think it's funny now, and I think what I will say. What's like this isn't really funny. It's a little bit like wow, we second guessed. Well, not we. I second guessed a lot of decisions because I came into the association um, with a communications background, but not a background in charter schools. So I had like a steep learning curve, and everyone was so amazing at getting me up to speed. but I was seeing things from a newer perspective, and I would second guess myself a lot and think that I needed like more, maybe a little bit more input or guidance than I really did from like external, like other people, where I really needed to trust my gut more. And that obviously comes with time. I'm looking at this now from like the perspective of a 45-year-old woman. But I really like now look back and go, like everything I thought I was doing was like right. And not everything, but the decisions that I was asking someone else to like validate for me, I already knew the answer, like when it comes to like what is the right thing. And I felt like I relied a little too heavily on other people for that. Now I would say it's absolutely hilarious to look back and think that I like maybe needed some of that external validation because I didn't. And like clearly you and Andrea and with me in the office, we were holding things down without someone. And like we didn't have to check in with a board all the time. We were like a ask like forgiveness,
Yep.
not permission kind of structure. And it kind of is funny to think that like there's all these people that are like, you need this. And like, yes, in fairness, you do need like a figurehead and someone who's going to like be the face of that group. But for how long did we just kind of go on just our skills collectively to keep an office running?
I think what's even funnier for me is we were in the office and none of us were going to be promoted to be the boss.
I was just about
Right?
to
We
say,
looked on the outside and Andrea should have just been promoted. Like, in my opinion, Andrea should have
oh,
just been promoted.
you guys could have been like basically like co-leading the group, which is what it should have been. And now when you think back to it, it's absolutely maddening. I've become even more like of a dedicated feminist, and it's like ridiculous. We didn't really like there was really not a need. You guys could have done it. I could have been your support
We
system.
were doing it. I
And
think that's what people don't understand. We were doing it, but also doing it without staff.
yeah, and not for nothing. We didn't get paid for it. Like we didn't get a like, oh, you're holding this down. Oh, and I don't know if this is my little side note. Like, I don't usually like reveal my politics. I hope no one holds it against me.
I
But
don't think anybody, I don't care.
okay, so yeah,
I will say one of the things, so Andrea and I started writing an organizational culture and structure book, and then COVID came back and I haven't finished it, but we tell the story in that of how you were on vacation and a staff member was hired for you,
oh,
and you were not part of that
knock
decision
that out.
making.
Yeah,
And so I also want to add, like, as women who were responsible for so much in the office while all of our staff members quit, like, we weren't even allowed to make hiring decisions, but we knew the organization needs better than everyone else. And so I think there were a lot of lessons that we all learned that we let go because it was easier to let them go than just work totally enraged every day.
yeah. I
Okay.
actually blocked that one out. That's not funny as much as it's like kind of pathetic. And also, what's
But we write about it in the book. By the way, I'm now putting in names like before where I felt the need to protect these people, these men that we worked with, and in some cases women, I no longer feel the need to protect them because there's enough of us who live through it that can say these stories are absolutely true. Like, do you remember that Kyle and Chris were given paternity leave off when their wives had babies, but I had a hysterectomy and they made me use my own time? And it's like, that's
yeah,
also ageism. Like, oh my God. Like, when we look back, this is obviously a much different culture, right? Like, really, nobody's in charge of our organization. Somebody goes, oh, we should do this. And we're like, okay, that can't hurt to try. Like, okay, we'll do it. But also, I think since we've all been here, and I think you hit on it, anytime like we questioned ourselves, in retrospect, we were right. Like, these were right decisions to make at that time.
yeah.
And
And one thing
yeah,
I want to just add about the paternity leave and like how inequitable that was considering your time for your hysterectomy and also like hiring practices. Predominantly, if I were to like do a quick like remembering, like the majority of the people we worked with would probably have also identified as like progressive left. And
yeah,
that's pretty still pretty patriarchal stuff that was going on.
yeah, oh yeah, it absolutely was. It absolutely was. I sometimes I look back at that and because I don't know if you remember, but when we left, I had so much time I had to be paid out for. By the way, everyone quit our company because they didn't trust another new leader coming in. And so I couldn't really take time off. Like time off was a luxury, and I had to work it out with Andrea had to be able to be there if I wasn't, and vice versa. And uh, I look back at that and I go, okay, so I had all this time and I got pushback about if they were going to pay me out for it. And I took the staff handbook and I resent it. And it said up to 30 days payout. And they said, well, we don't know. We might change this policy. I'm like, you can't change this policy because I resigned. Like, absolutely not. But I need people to know that's how petty it got. All right. So I have one last question. And this is, I'm going to start by telling everyone like a brief little thing. So the year we left Empire, you had not, or the year we left the association, um, you were still at the association and hadn't determined whether or not you wanted to leave. Andrea and I had resigned. We called you. We had called you in the October of the year before we actually left to tell you we were resigning. And in March, we were summoned to New York City to meet with a board member and a former boss, one of the former EDs. And we went in, and we all know I had already given up. Like I was leaving. Truck stop waitress was definitely in my future. I was tired. I was burned out. Andrea actually created the documents we used for the meeting. I think you sat to the right of Andrea. I sat to the left. Andrea, we were at a restaurant right before, like we were
Yeah.
eating, and then
And
we
it's
went to
like,
this meeting.
this is the vision. Yeah.
And there was a snowstorm. And so now we go, but we're not there to fight for our jobs. We were fighting to say, if you want this association to continue with or without us, here are all the things you need to do. At the end of the meeting, that board member is like, if you want to do that, go do it. I'm not funding it. And we were like, we already resigned, lady. Like, we don't give a shit if you're funding it. We're not going to be here. We're telling you how to make this organization survive. It is a snowstorm. I don't know if you remember that.
I
We
do.
get on the train. You have no choice. You have to buy a beer this tall. I think I was just in shock. We run into somebody from SUNY. Do you remember we see somebody from SUNY and we all look and the guy turned around and walked out when he saw the three of us sitting in that one cart by ourselves? At that moment, and we knew Andrea and I were definitely leaving, and you knew because we collected all the materials as we were leaving, like, yeah, you're not keeping our work. Like, this is our business plan. We get on that train, it's a snowstorm. We're all in a ridiculously good mood.
Like giddy.
What do you remember about that night? Because now you got to get off the train, you actually got to drive home through a snowstorm.
Yeah.
Do you
After
remember
I
that
had
night?
like a 40 ounce.
Yeah, thank God. So, what do you remember about that day?
Oh, that was a
Then,
funny day.
and then what ultimately made you decide to say Empire's a better choice than staying with the association? Because you were guaranteed a paycheck at the
Oh,
association. You were absolutely not guaranteed a paycheck with us.
that's true. So yeah, okay. So first of all, when you said I wasn't thinking of that, that is probably one of the funniest moments like of the whole time. And
It's
then
my favorite picture. I have that picture printed out of us on the train, and like I'm taking it and you're holding the beer. It's like that summed up our entire day.
yeah, it was like they dragged us to, they didn't drag us. We went willingly. But like it was such a like fool's errand at the end of the day. It was like they were never gonna like buy in. But it felt like give it one last chance. Like here's the vision, here's how it can be done. Like take it or leave it. I guess you're leaving it. Okay, we're done. Like it felt like okay, we gave it this last shot. I still don't think that I had like technically resigned that yet.
You
Like
hadn't, as a matter of fact, they were trying to woo you to
yeah.
stay.
And I was just like, but we first of all, I'm sorry, there are other smart people, but you and Andrea truly were like the brains of it. And like, this is like, you guys have given this so much more thought than like anyone else I know anywhere. Like, it's so over, some people even overthink the dumb things. Like, you guys were thinking in real practicalities. And you really had this great vision. And when they didn't take it, it was like, well, that's it. Like, that's it. I didn't really know exactly where I fit in, but it felt like really cathartic to me to like go with you guys, present this information. It wasn't accepted by them. Getting on the train, and just like hilarity ensued.
It
Huge,
was
big
the
bottle of
best
beer.
train trip ever.
So funny. Like, I felt like light. I felt like really light. I don't feel like um, I just felt like a lightness. It was like, this is what's going to happen. This is like how we move forward. And I feel like for me, I kind of knew if I wanted to be with people who like worked well in the movement and who were like intelligent and had really good foresight and like the practical side, it was going to be with you guys. I felt very light, very comfortable. Now, like taking a dive and not knowing if you're going to have a paycheck to back it up
We
is
didn't know
terrible.
if we'd have a paycheck. We had
Yeah.
no customers. By the way, so we could take away this false narrative. We had no customers. We left and we're just like, oh, we're going to take off until July 4th. Like we had never had any time off in months. So like
Yeah. It was
they
terrifying.
it got so bad they made us forward the phones. We used to get that week off after Christmas. That was one of the things Kyle did. They made me forward the phones to my personal cell phone so I can answer work calls. I'm like, work doesn't pay my bill. I pay my bill.
That's
But what we like, but you took that leap of faith.
yes, because you guys had been talking about it and actually like it was interesting. You never did any of the work like while we were there. It all I remember there was like a hard end, and then we were at your house. We ate like a ton of Italian food and like brainstormed like crazy. But you guys like had such a basis of knowledge and also really like I don't know, you were just confident, and that confidence with basis of knowledge gave me confidence that I needed. I was still like, I'm not exactly sure. Also, like, shout out to my husband who was like, it's going to be okay. Like, I have a job and all of that. Like, I'll take care of it. But I didn't want that to be the way forever. Like, we're both working people. And it was the confidence that you guys instilled in me, and also knowing that we would be like more free, we wouldn't be taken advantage of, and we would be able to like sort of be well totally unfiltered, like which I've really loved seeing you be unfiltered in a way that you hadn't been able to before because of like boards and bosses, and now there is none of that, and like a school buys in or it doesn't, and that has been really nice to see the freeing nature of it all, not
Do
having
you know what my funniest memory is, though, of all of us? When we had that PD and and I separated everyone, Andrea and I separated everyone, and we said, write down the mission statement. And only Comms got it right, and me and Andrea, not even the boss got it right. Like
oh
nobody else got the mission statement right. And that brings in my head of how different we all were as a team
yeah
than everyone else.
yeah.
And that's why our messaging always resonated with people.
Yeah, it was really hard with like two offices in two different states being like managed differently, and
And we
that's
had people in Buffalo and Rochester. Then we had somebody in New York City. And then like it wasn't
it
It
wasn't
was just a
cohesive.
different life. But if I
Yeah.
never said it, thank you for actually believing we could bring in money.
Oh,
There is a false narrative that we were collecting contracts while we were there.
no, we like left and we're like, now what?
Absolutely didn't happen. We were just like, somebody will hire us, right? Like somebody will hire us. And I think our very first job was a renewal application. And the money was so minimal. And it's like, I don't even think Andrea and I didn't get to take any money, even like the renewal application money that came in for 8 weeks because we just couldn't trust that we would bring in any more money. So everything was laid out. And I think people think that we did something in advance. We absolutely did not. But on that March night, it was and I think you're right. Like, was that weight lifted off of I'm not even gonna pretend to like it here anymore. They still did try to woo you, but I always appreciate that you took that train ride with us and you sat in there knowing like this was a do or die moment for at least two of us, right? They still wanted you to stay. For at least two of us, it was do or die, and it was clear, like you're like, I'll die. Like, yeah, I get it. Like I'm in. I get what they're saying. This isn't gonna work.
I
So
can't
I
even
always
imagine.
appreciate it. So thank you for taking that leap of faith.
Well, you know, I
Um,
owe all of my like professional happiness sense to you and Andrea. So
God, what's that like? That's got to be a horrible feeling. I will say, like, though, that March train ride was everything. It was literally everything. When the guy from SUNY walked down, Andrew's like, that's so and so from SUNY. You and I look, the guy looks at us, turned around and walked around, like left the car. We all just started laughing. It was impossible he didn't hear us laughing. We all start laughing. You go to get a beverage. I'm like digging through my bag for Xanax. Like somebody, like what has just happened? But I appreciate that not only did you come to that meeting, you didn't have to. Like you absolutely didn't have to. And then ultimately you chose to stay with us. And that means everything. So thank you. Thank you for all of that.
God, I loved it. Yeah, thank you.
And the best is yet to come.
I think so. You know what? I never answered what I think is like an improvement in the movement. I might have to give that some more thought.
Right, because all of a sudden things that we thought were good 5 years ago are not that great right now.
Yeah, I have to I have to mull that one over. For us, for our organization, I can tell you. I think
Give us here.
I think like before you had to like you were never ever gonna hold back on quality, but I feel like now you can call out schools and authorizers in a different way than you ever could before. Like I think, well, clearly because you're
And by the
not
way, schools like it. Like the first thing you guys always ask me is who reached out to you.
right.
Right? We sent an email who reached out to you, but I think it's a huge leap of faith for two women that you knew were just we had enough and we were going to a meeting and you're like, yeah, I'll go. You're like, yeah, I'll go to the meeting. We're expecting a snowstorm. Remember, because they wanted us to go to Connecticut. I'm like, I'm not driving to Connecticut. We'll take the train. And then
Yep.
just the train ride home, how hard we were all laughing.
Oh my God. My biggest regret that day was like wearing a skirt in a snowstorm.
And then I do remember like we went to the restaurant next door and we sat in there for a few hours and then we went to the meeting.
Ah,
But at the end of the day, and I remember we stayed fairly quiet until we all got on the train. Like we were doing like as if anybody on the streets of New York knew who we were, what we were going to talk about. We stayed quiet and then we got on the train and we were like, boom. Like what the hell just happened? But thank you. Thank you for all those years ago. The faith. I hope we don't lose that. Like we're trying our best. But thank you so much, Jess. And this has been Jess and Jill.
yeah. Thank you, Jill.